He pressed a palm flat against his chest and paused. Not to steady himself, just to feel the thin edge beneath the fabric. The paper was still there, folded the same way. Corners softened from being handled too often. His fingers traced the shape through his shirt, then pulled back. Again. Nothing else moved. Breathing stayed even. His face showed the calm of someone who had learned how to keep it that way. The paper rested where it always had. Close enough to feel. Far enough to leave untouched. He stood like that for a while. Weight settled. Shoulders loose. From the outside, there was no reason to think anything was wrong. He had mastered that look long ago. Inside, the paper held its shape. Each fold remembered. Each crease familiar. He had folded it carefully the first time. Too carefully. As if precision could make the words easier to carry. His thumb pressed once more, right where the fold met the edge. Then he stopped himself. He always did. There was no rush. No urgency in the air. Just a quiet knowledge of what was being held. The paper had never been unfolded. Not once. Its weight had not changed, but his awareness of it had. Sometimes he noticed it without touching it at all. A presence. A reminder that did not speak. His breathing stayed slow. Measured. As if nothing lived beneath the surface. He adjusted the fabric over his chest, smoothing it flat. A small motion. One that suggested order. The paper stayed hidden, its edges warmed by his body. Its words still sealed inside. He had carried it long enough to forget when it first arrived there. Long enough for the act of carrying to feel natural. Almost harmless. Almost. His hand lowered to his side. The pressure eased. The paper remained. There was a faint tightness where his palm had been. Not pain. Something quieter. Something that had learned how to wait. He returned to his routines without thinking about them. That was how most days went. The paper stayed with him as he moved. It shifted slightly when he bent. Pressed closer when he straightened. He learned which motions made it noticeable. Which ones did not. Those became habits. He avoided sudden movements. Avoided stretching too far. Avoided anything that brought sharp awareness to his chest. The paper did not demand this. It never asked. The adjustments came from him. When his hand drifted upward, it stopped short. Not consciously. Just before contact. That pause repeated itself many times. Too many to count. Small hesitations threaded through ordinary actions. He folded fabric more carefully than necessary. Smoothed wrinkles that were barely there. Order became important in ways he never named. The paper remained folded, unopened. Its edges softened further. Sometimes the weight felt heavier than it was. Not in mass, in attention. There were moments when the calm cracked just enough to show something underneath. A tightening of a jaw. A breath held a fraction longer than needed. He noticed these signs without stopping them. Not because he wanted them, because stopping would require looking closer. The paper was part of him now. Not foreign. Integrated. Still, certain thoughts caused a subtle shift. A pressure that rose, then settled, as if the body remembered before the mind allowed it. He stood still more often than necessary, lingering between actions, letting time pass without purpose. The paper rested against his chest through all of it. A constant, unchanging. He had told himself it was easier this way, that carrying was simpler than opening. That unopened meant unresolved. Not wrong. Yet his movement said otherwise. His pauses, his carefulness, they traced the outline of choice that had already been made. Not loudly, quietly. The paper did not argue. It did not insist on being read. Its silence matched his own. Still, something in him adjusted around it. Made room. Made excuses. By the end of the day, his shoulders often felt tired. Not from effort. From holding things in place. He pressed a palm briefly against his chest again. Less deliberately this time. More out of reflex. The paper stayed folded, and the space around it grew. The moment arrived without ceremony. No shift in light. No clear signal. His hand moved before he noticed it. Not to his chest at first. Just closer than usual. The paper pressed back when he leaned forward. A firmer contact. Impossible to ignore. He froze there, halfway through the motion. Breath caught, then released. For the first time, the weight felt specific. Not symbolic. Not imagined. It was paper. Thin. Fragile. And it held words that had been written once and never allowed to finish their journey. The thought landed fully this time. Not as a passing discomfort. Not as background pressure. He understood then what had been done. Not recently. Not accidentally. The choice had been repeated every day. Every pause. Every careful adjustment. Leaving the paper folded was not neutrality. It was an action. One taken again and again. His fingers hovered, trembling slightly. Not from fear. From clarity. The regret did not arrive loudly. It did not accuse. It simply settled. He saw how much effort had gone into preserving the fold, how many movements had been around it, how much energy had been spent protecting silence. The paper had never demanded this loyalty. It had only waited. A quiet understanding spread through him. Opening it now would not return anything. It would only confirm what time had already shaped. The words inside were no longer timely. They belonged to a version of him that had believed there was room to wait. That belief dissolved. Not suddenly. Completely. His chest felt tight, then empty, as if something had already slipped away without notice. He lowered his hand slowly, letting it fall back to his side. The motion felt final. The paper remained where it was, still folded, still unread. But it was no longer neutral, no longer just carried. It had become evidence of hesitation, of silence mistaken for patience. He stood there longer than necessary, not thinking, not moving. The regret stayed with him. Clear, undramatic. It did not ask to be fixed. It only asked to be seen. And he saw it. He resumed his stillness. But it was different now. Not lighter. More precise. The paper stayed where it had always been. Folded. Warm from his body. He did not reach for it again. Not because he was afraid. Because reaching would change nothing. The awareness remained steady. No longer rising and falling. Just there. He moved through small actions with the same care as before. The same pauses. The same measured breathing. From the outside, nothing had shifted. The calm remained intact. The surface held. Inside, the adjustment was complete. The explanation had ended. The arguing had stopped. The paper no longer felt heavy, nor did it feel harmless. It felt finished. He understood that the words inside would never leave his chest. Not through opening. Not through speaking. They would stay folded into him. Part of the way he stood. Part of the way he waited. This did not resolve anything. It did not soften the regret. It simply placed it where it belonged. He pressed his palm once more against the fabric. Briefly, without hesitation. There was no attempt to unfold. No lingering. Just contact. Then his hand fell away. Naturally, as it always had, the paper remained silent. So did he. Time passed without being marked. Moments stacked without comment. The body continued its quiet negotiations. He carried the paper not as a question anymore, but as a fact. One that required no response. The fold stayed sharp enough to feel. Soft enough to accept. neither changing. His chest rose and fell. Even. Unremarkable. The words stayed where they were written to stay. Not delivered. Not erased. And in that stillness, there was no attempt to undo. Only the calm recognition of what had already been done. Not every opportunity disappears. Some simply do not return. Quietly. Without warning. If you have ever thought, I should have acted then, this story may have reached you.